I don't know, Brendan. I'm like, this is a low point, I feel like, in
I
my
disagree. I don't think it's a low point. I mean,
in what?
like, of course, it sucks to see, but this was always the likely outcome. The low
No,
point.
sure. I just mean I think let me clarify that because it is certainly not a low point in terms of the state of the organization in my life. Brendan and I are a similar age. We're in our early 30s. And like, so we have seen some truly awful teams. I watched plenty of games that were led off by Nafi Perez or Jose
Come
Macias.
on,
You love it. I do
dude.
it to get a rise out of you.
It's like always in the 50th minute. The hell's wrong with you, dude?
I just want to ruin your Sunday night.
Jeez,
But
man.
so it is not the low point of my Cubs fandom, but it is a low point in the sense that when Theo came and they did the first rebuild, and of course they win the World Series,
That's
and even
right.
after winning the World Series, they go
That's
back to the
right.
NLCS. They had, win 95 games in 2018. And for, the Brewers catch lightning in a bottle. What are you going to do about it? But it is something where I I just got that confidence, like, this is a different version of the Chicago Cubs than I grew up with, or a different version of the Chicago Cubs that my mom would explain she grew up watching, or my grandma, and things like that. And not that they're back in that level of ineptitude, because 'cause they're not. They've had some truly horrible eras. But it's just dismaying to have had that success and feel like the standard has been raised by the organization, and to be in this period where it just feels so like blah. And I thought Luke had a really great kind of rant. I don't know if he ended up doing it on one of the regular podcasts, but he did it during the watch along, where he was talking about like Shohei and the show that he's putting on, and the hitting the home runs and creating the 50-50 club and stealing these bases, this incredible season that he's having. And it wasn't just unique to Shohei that it had to be Shohei, but just that we're watching these stars do these things. The year before, it was Aaron Judge. And you just have these players who enter the national spotlight for their performance and what they're doing, and the way that they're bringing eyes to the game. And it's just never the Chicago Cubs. And it just is really disappointing. And you've had an opportunity to bring some of those guys in. And we list those names all the time, but whether it's Bryce Harper, Juan Soto, in theory, you could have tried to get Aaron Judge too, Shohei Ohtani, et cetera, et cetera. It's never the Cubs that have this big, bright, shiny star that the whole world wants to watch and that they go out and get because they're the Chicago Cubs. And of course, someone like that should be playing in Wrigley Field in Cubs blue pinstripes. And so it's certainly not a low point in what I've watched from this organization. Like, they've been a total dumpster fire at times, and multiple times in our lives. But it just is not a great feeling at this point with this organization. And, not to like, it is what it is, but it does pair with the fact, like, and we talked about this recently, like, then they're sending me an invoice and they want more money from me to keep my season tickets. It's like, I don't know, man. Like, this is not the best I felt about this organization, even though, as we say, like, there are many, many worse situations across Major League Baseball. And there is a lot of good with this team. Um, as we saw, on Sunday, like Shota Imanaga came in. Craig Counsell was talking about it after the game. I just read a quote from our guy, Ryan Herrera, over on Twitter. Like, they signed him. Everybody was like unsure because, Yamamoto was the big prize. And Shota comes over. He's been their best player. That's what Craig Counsell said after the game. I think they're 23-6 in games where Shota Imanaga
Wow.
takes the mound. And Craig Counsell after the game, he goes, he's been our best player. Been our best player all year. He's that guy. He came over here and just immediately took over. And it's been a joy to kind of watch. So there is a lot of good, but it's not a great feeling right now with the state of, just the organization and like what that direction is.
Man, I've been feeling this way for years. That's the sad part about this. I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if firing the front office now is the solution. It could be. I don't know if the current infrastructure is the solution, even though they've done good. It could be. The sheer fact that it's wait and see to me is just not comfortable. It's
Yeah.
not acceptable. And in hindsight, we'll see, how we review the front office this time next year. But in hindsight, the likely conversation we're gonna have is why did they keep Shed? That's literally the likely conversation. Doesn't mean it's 100%. The way it doesn't happen is those AAA bats we've been talking about, Dan Kantrovitz's draft, they produce value next year, and we get more Michael Bushes at cheaper rates that allow them to improve the bullpen through trades, accepting more money, and offsetting some of the failures they see to get pushed past 90 wins. It's still possible, but the wait and see alone is very uncomfortable. And maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised in the offseason in the form of really creative, dramatic trades. But then again, it's what proof do you have that's possible? Maybe the
Yeah.
Isaac Paredes one, but that's also been really bad so far. So I don't really know if I can give much confidence other than the fact that Dan Kantrovitz has done a phenomenal job drafting, and we have a lot of minor league value right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think very clear, what this organization kind of where the level they need to get to, how exactly they're going to do it. I'm not sure, but again, I sit and my kind of largest complaint always continues to be how many issues it was that were so kind of easy to see that this offense would be inconsistent. You were relying on too many things to go right. You were taking a complete risk at both corner infield positions. One of them worked swimmingly, the other one didn't work at all. And you sketch about the bullpen. Do you have enough starting depth? All these questions, and then we sit here and they're missing the playoffs for
Yeah.
all these these exact reasons. It's
The
impossible
answer
not to be extremely pissed off about that.
the answer we got from the season is they don't have good enough coaches, good enough development. That's for me, the takeaway. And not to be like rudely blunt about it, but the bullpen was a complete and utter failure for
Yeah,
3 months of the season. That was I mean
too
this
late, too little, too late.
I mean this without hyperbole. That stretch from early June, or rather late May, up until the All-Star break, was the most brutal Cubs
Yeah,
baseball I've ever watched, where you have starters going 5, 6 innings, bullpen blowing games, 1-run games left and right. Pitiful offense, bullpen looking absolutely below league average, not even a replacement level. I'll take replacement level. A complete and total failure that is on the front office's inability to identify the necessary coaches, tools, and resources for that to not happen. And that specific reason is why Milwaukee is winning the division, and it highlights exactly why Milwaukee is so damn good and running laps around the Cubs and continuing to do so for the next or over the past 4 or 5 seasons.
We all silly like the mayor.